God formiddag eller god frokost, hvis du sidder med den lige nu og er tunet ind her til endnu en masterclass fra os hos Innovation Lab til jer derude. Så velkommen til. Nu skifter jeg lige til engelsk. I'm switching to English because that is the language of our masterclass today. Because today with us from Venice, we have our partner in Italy with us, Mattia Crespi. And Mattia here is basically here to give us his access into the future. Mattia has 20 years of experience in digital transformation and innovation and emerging technologies. And today we get to learn from him. And learn about AI and quantum and beyond and all the exciting stuff that is going to happen already now, some of it, and some of it in the future. So we're very excited to have you here today, Mattia. I will basically let you take over now. For those of you sitting out there, you can drop in the chat who you are, where you're from, where you're sitting, and so on, just so we get to know you a little bit. And just enjoy the masterclass, and I will see you at the end.
Thank you for this introduction. Hello everyone. I hope you're having a good day. It's nice to be here with you today for this masterclass. So we'll talk about the future today, as usual with me. That has been my passion for the past 20 years. So I work as a futurologist, as it's so called today, and I work in emerging technologies, understanding their impact on society, the way we work, and typically hold these masterclasses or courses on the impact of these technologies. So today I will try and analyze the main emerging technologies that will have an impact in the next years, more or less in the time frame ranging between 5 and 10 years from now, starting from highlighting the approach we use to perform future foresight and the methodology we use, and then going on to discussing these emerging technologies like AI, quantum computing, but also emerging new biotech technologies and so on, and the way they somehow intersect and impact, and the types of disruptions, changes, and scenarios they will introduce in the future. So if you have any questions or you'd like me to dive deeper in a certain section of the masterclass today, please say so. There is the chat window you can use at any time. Depending on if I see coming out questions or anything, I may leave them at the end where we may have a few minutes discussion and open it up to the floor. And in any case, I would really appreciate if you have comments or like to discuss anything specific. I'm always happy to dive deeper into the subject. I will start screen sharing now, and I will continue using the slides. Okay, you should all be seen. Okay, so how to stay ahead in the age of AI and quantum computing. So, okay, for a couple of words about me, I'm a researcher and a consultant, essentially. I teach courses on innovation and emerging technologies, as you heard before, but I also develop projects around the world for brands and companies that are either digital transformation projects or emerging technology adoptions in terms of strategy and implementation. I'm also an advisor on a couple of startups, and I sometimes teach at the University of Venice. So first of all, to start with, I'm going to introduce what we call being future ready. Being future ready is an expression we use often at the Institute for the Future in Palo Alto. That's where I am a research affiliate, to essentially describe a state of mind and a condition in which you should be today, facing a time and a future where there is a lot of uncertainty, and we'll understand better how this works. Of course, why you want to be future ready? Because you don't want to be like one of these two brands. Now, we don't have enough time today to tell the full story about these two brands, and I'm sure some of you already know the stories of two brands. Certainly, you know that they do not exist anymore. And, the reason why they do not exist is because in the end, they were not future ready. They did not prepare well enough or adopt strategies that were in line with the scenarios and the conditions that would happen in their future. And this is also because obviously there's not just one future, but there are multiple futures. So in the line of time, throughout the crossing of different events, different lines and scenarios of the future can spread out. And obviously it's impossible to predict everything that can happen in the future, but we can somehow adopt a methodology to rationalize and better understand what are the impacting factors, and somehow, if not with extreme precision, but we can still try and understand what are the main scenarios and conditions we may face in a possible future. And of course, as we say, there are many futures, there are many possible futures, and we use this cone of possibilities, so-called, to highlight the fact that starting from all the possible range of futures, we should start narrowing down this cone of possibilities, going from possible future to plausible future, among everything that's possible, what's really plausible, what could really rationally happen, and then go down and narrow down more and get to what's probable. What are the probable futures we could find ourselves in? What are the probable scenarios? And among those, finally, try and aim at selecting what could be a preferred future. What is among all the possibilities, the plausible, the probable, what we prefer to be in? What would be the ideal scenario and future that we would want our company to be in the future? And because, as we say, the best way to predict the future is to create it, is to design it ourselves, is to choose it somehow. So any strategy and tactic that we can adopt to reach a preferred future is really allowing us to make our future as we want it, and not just passively accept the future that happens without having agency and action on it. And sometimes it's not even easy to understand what our preferred future is. It's not evident, and there are many elements that we should consider. So that's why at the Institute for the Future and other research centers in the world that study the future and implement future foresight methodologies, we developed these methods to systematically think about the future, to collect elements in the present that help us to make rational predictions. And of course, nobody can predict the future. But at the same time, if we cannot, predict the future in full, we can begin making plausible statements about the future, and remembering that, like this image says, a famous sentence from Jim Dator, who used to be a futurist at the Institute for the Future. Remember that any useful statement about the future should at first seem ridiculous. Meaning, when we talk about the future, let's not scare ourselves. Let's not be scared about exaggerating somehow in our assumptions, and making statements that initially make us smile, but that could become serious possibilities in the future. If we met, for example, 2-3 years before COVID, and I told you, hey, listen, in a couple of years there's going to be lockdown, and you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that, you're going to have to stay at home, you will not be able to meet your friends, your families. And you probably would have looked at me and said, look, this is a bit crazy. But then things happen, and they surprise us. Doing what we try and do in Future Foresight is really about trying not to be surprised in the last minute about the future, especially now in a moment where we live in an era of exponential and entangled change. Where there are both opportunities and risks, and where what is really happening is a system-level transformation, not just localized single disruptions, but there is a whole, the systems on which we base our lives are fundamentally changing and transforming. And there are some kind of frameworks we define to describe the current world we live in, and the features of this current world, and somehow create new lenses to help us interpret what's changing. And there are these two frameworks. They're called VUCA and BANI. They both have been defined by two researchers at the Institute. VUCA is, you may have heard of them already. In case you haven't, the VUCA world is where we essentially come from and how the last years have been. VUCA means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This is a way to describe the current ecosystem we live in, how society is at the moment. But lately, there has been somehow a more fitting description of the historical moment we're living through, which is the BANI model. And the BANI model is defined by 4 other words, which are brittleness. Something brittle is something that appears strong, but in reality is very fragile, with fragile foundations. Anxiety has taken the place of uncertainty. So it's really like the uncertainty has become more, and until it developed into anxiety. So people are concerned about the future. And what used to be just complexity has really become non-linearity, in the sense that change happens sometimes in a disconnected form, and it's difficult to understand where it comes from. It's not just complexity; is a non-linear world. And ambiguity has been substituted by incomprehensibility. And this is particularly true when we discuss certain emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, for example, which is for most a technology that is really not well understood. And even for people that work with it, in some cases, becomes incomprehensible. So, why is it important today, in particular, to implement and utilize a methodology to systematically think about the future? Because we are in a present time of big uncertainty, big uncertainty, and a time defined by those terms in the VUCA and BANI models. Then what's also changing is the innovation models. The basic models behind innovation is profoundly changing. We are in the age of deep tech, and deep tech innovation does not work like this anymore. Here is, the old model, if you will, of digital innovation, of computing, whereby two guys in a garage with talent and then eventually with some money could make a phenomenon like Apple. Well, today this does not happen anymore. The new innovation model of deep tech, of emerging technologies, is of higher complexity. It's not enough anymore to have two people in a garage with some money to make Apple. To make Apple today, you need a lot more. You need research centers, you need patents, you need universities, you need incubators, you need government funding, possibly at the beginning, you need private funding, you need a whole ecosystem to actually be able to foster true innovation in the domains of deep tech. Often these deep tech technologies are of high complexity, are very expensive, starting from AI. AI today is in the hands of a few very large players that are highly funded, for two reasons. One is you need a lot of money to develop it. Two, you need a lot of data to develop it. So, there are only a few players that have the capacity to actually develop this kind of technology. And this is true also for other technologies like bioengineering and so on. I told you should be future ready. And how are you going to be future ready? Okay, I told you implement a methodology. And what this methodology is about is really giving you three fundamental capacities. The capacity to detect change, in particular the change, interpret the change in a way that allows you to understand whether it's a threat or an opportunity, how you respond to change, so understanding the implications and developing a strategy to manage, to respond to this change happening, because change is happening rapidly in the BANI world that we live in. And finally, how do you adapt to this change and implement the strategy and to thrive in the future environment? So first question is, where are you today? Where you want to be in the next 10 years? And what bridges are needed to get you there? What dots do you need to connect? What strategies you need to implement to get you there? And, in this masterclass today, what I'm really trying to help you answer these questions. First of all, ask yourself, how is my organization future ready? Is it future ready or not? And you could find yourself in one of these four statements. And this is the relationship you have or your organization has with change. Are you resisting change? and you really think short term, you're managing day-to-day problems and not able to think longer term, or you're reacting to change on a longer term horizon, but you don't prepare soon enough, well enough, and you're really reacting too late still. Or you may find yourself in a better position where you're anticipating the future and change, but you're not really doing it in every domain, in every department in the company, and the capability to rationalize the future becomes maybe just the domain of the innovation department and is not well spread out in the whole organization. On the other hand, you may find yourself to be future ready for the future, and make sure, and this means that you're adopting strategic foresight across the organization, and it has somehow become a core capacity of every department, where every single department of the company or the leader in the department dedicates some time in rationalizing future scenarios and understanding what the new challenges are, what's changing, and constantly monitoring the ecosystem to understand what's happening and what's changing and adapt to it. Then you can consider yourself to be future ready. So it's not just having an innovation department, but is making sure that the principles of doing strategic innovation are adopted by every department in the company organically. And there is a certain, you need to understand that it's important, of course, to have different types of mindsets in an organization. You cannot think that everybody in the organization constantly thinks about the future. You need to have people that think about the present and solve current problems. You need to have people that think about longer term futures, shorter term futures. So that's why we say in an organization you have to do what's called temporal gymnastic. And future ready organization think differently about time. Or in other words, they understand very clearly that there are different time horizons depending on the type of person you are in the company, the type of role you have in the company. So the first horizon is the management mindset. And of course, this, as you can see, as a higher curve sooner in time, in the short term. And this is because obviously the management mindset has to deal with problems in the short term. They cannot be too concerned about what's going to happen in the future, because they need to solve the problem this week. They need to solve the delivery. They need to solve the problem with the employee that's at home sick. They need to solve the issue arisen with the client. They are the people of the present or the short-term future. The second horizon typically is the people that sit in the board or the entrepreneur in the company, the CEO, the C-level board of the company, that has to have a longer vision mindset. And in fact, the second horizon curve, as you can see, expresses itself at the higher point in the medium time frame horizon. Finally, the third mindset, which is the visionary mindset, it's the innovators mindset. It's the ones that look at the longer term, and they cannot be concerned about the day-to-day problems, not even the medium-term problems. They really have to focus on the longer-term horizons and the longer-term visions. And what's important to understand also is that change happens and a company is able to evolve organically when these three mindsets communicate with each other efficiently, and where the three curves cross is the moment where change happens, where the three different mindsets understand each other and they truly make change happen. So, in other words, Horizon 1, business as usual, management mindset, they optimize existing systems, they need to focus on performance, scaling, risk management, and things like that. The second horizon, then the board, the C-levels, they need to focus on emerging disruption, emerging changes. They need to experiment with innovation. Like I said, every department should experiment with innovation. They need to adapt the strategy to the emerging elements of this innovation. And thirdly, the third horizon is people that need to focus on the transformative futures, the radical innovation that are going to disrupt the future of a company, that are going to determine, are we going to be a Kodak or are we going to survive and be resilient for the future? And they focus on value, purpose, and long-term vision. Diving deeper into the subject of the masterclass, there are today some key technology drivers represented by some fundamental technologies that are considered to be, they've been there for a while, actually. I mean, some of these technologies have been there for around 70 years, in particular, artificial intelligence, not generative AI, but artificial intelligence in general is a technology that started being experimented with already in the late 50s, as well as spatial computing, virtual reality was already in the experimental lab in the 60s, when we started planning to go to the moon. Quantum computing, synthetic biology are more recent, but I wanted to highlight here how these four emerging technologies are really at the core of the disruptions that are going to populate our future in the next years. In particular, we are in, as this slide says, we are in an AI revolution, and we are in between the second wave and the third wave of AI at the moment. We are in between the big wave of generative AI, the ChatGPTs, the Gemini, the Copilots, and entering the third wave of AI agents. And the fourth wave being represented here by artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And that's the moment when, as you know, technologies like saying artificial intelligence would become more powerful, more intelligent than the human brain, the so-called singularity moment. Well, you know, there is still time for that. Some people says there was a paper that came out from Google in recent days that declared that artificial general intelligence would be there in the years 2030. Some others have different ideas. Sooner or later, it will probably come. As of now, we still have to really understand how artificial intelligence agents work, and in some cases, how generative AI works. I won't spend a lot of time here describing how agents work or how generative AI work in particular. This is not a masterclass on how these technologies work in detail, but more focus on the impact and on adopting certain ways of reading their impacts, using a cross-impact matrix, as we will see in a minute, to determine how the crossing of these technologies, the intersection of these technologies, generates unexpected impacts. So again, these four, to further describe these four key technology drivers, generative AI ecosystems are represented today by this emerging concept of AI agents that are integrated across different sectors, and they will transform from creativity, decision making, and productivity in profound ways. AI agents will be able to eventually really substitute certain professions, certain jobs, and perform tasks and projects that are today only performed by human beings. By quantum supremacy or quantum computing are, of course, the new breed of super powerful computing that will be able to solve in much quicker times problems that were before not solvable because we did not have the capability of calculating as much as we needed. In particular, artificial intelligence is a technology that needs a lot of computing power, and quantum computing somehow is giving artificial intelligence that computing power that it needs to work at its best. It's almost impossible to think of a concept like artificial general intelligence, the super AI that does everything, without thinking of quantum computing. And quantum computing is also going to have a very deep impact on cybersecurity, data modeling, and it's going to have a really big impact on how computing is utilized. The third technology, synthetic biology, of course, is extremely important to us as human beings and is influencing the domain of productivity with innovative materials, but also our life and health with the possibility of interacting with having better healthcare, biotechnology, being able to 3D print organs, to really revolutionize the way we approach to biology and to healthcare as human beings, and the way we produce new items in our daily lives. And finally, spatial computing with mixed reality, creating mixed digital and physical world environments, really redefining the way we learn and possibly even work in the future and interact with each other. Today, we are in the phase in this technology where it's been effectively used and proven to be very positive for training in particular. Probably we're not ready for a full-scale collaboration in this sense, but we'll get there one step at a time. Now, one of the exercises that we do to understand the future scenarios, in particular with emerging technologies, is using what we call a cross-impact matrix. And this is used to monitor intersections in between technology innovations, not just single vertical technologies or innovations and their impact as single technology, but because true change and the deepest changes and impacts often happen when multiple technologies overlap and cross with each other. Just for example, some of the platforms that really had an impact on that really disrupted the way we do certain things today. Think, for example, of Uber. Uber is the result of not one technology, but multiple technology crossed with each other, intersected with each other. You had mobile phones, you had GPS, satellite localization, we had the internet. So there is a number of different elements, different technologies that came together to generate a disruption in the way we do something. And so here you can see, first of all, a simple analysis on the level of impact that these technologies will have when crossing each other. And we have high, medium, and low level of impact. So we have, for example, generative AI does not impact with itself. When you cross it with quantum supremacy, you have a medium level of impact. With synthetic biology, you have a high level of impact because it's AI in general speeds up a lot the development in synthetic biology, for example, but also in spatial computing when it comes to creating virtual spaces and virtual environments. Generative AI is able to very quickly generate synthetic environments to use in spatial computing. Quantum computing, on the other hand, has a big impact with generative AI and with AI in general, because as we said before, the very powerful, very high computing power and speed has a very high impact on the developing of AI. On the other hand, with synthetic biology, it does not have such a high impact, but still have a medium impact, as well as with spatial computing. Synthetic biology itself has a medium impact on generative AI, on quantum supremacy, and a low impact on spatial computing. And spatial computing has a high impact when crossed with generative AI, medium impact when crossed with quantum supremacy, and low impact on synthetic biology. And going further into this, what happens if we pull out the highest leverage cross impacts, so the H marked ones? The highest level happens in between generative AI and synthetic biology. Why? What happens there? Because AI accelerates biodesign, enables faster gene editing, diagnostics, and the simulation of biological systems. So it has a very high impact. Quantum computing and generative AI, again, is a high impact match because quantum computation supercharges AI training, makes it faster. You can do higher calculation, better, quicker calculations, more powerful calculations with quantum computing. And this enables maintaining better AI models. The third high-level cross-impact is spatial computing and generative AI, where you can have AI-driven virtual agents in spatial computing environments, open up new possibilities in learning, collaboration, and also in service delivery, in customer service, for example, in virtual spaces. Just think of what today are service assistant bots that will turn into virtual assistants in the shape of avatars that will be ideal assistant companions for various activities in our everyday life. So why do we pull out this high leverage cross impact? Because that's where we can find suggestions about the highest transformative innovation zones that will really redefine our industries in the next period. And going further, diving deeper into these, what are the deeper implications of these intersections? Well, the first one, AI and biotech again. AI accelerates bioengineering, so we can enable a rapid drug discovery and personalized medicine. Even the COVID vaccine have been rapid drug development thanks to artificial intelligence, deep learning models. We would not have been possible to develop so fast vaccines and drugs like we do today without artificial intelligence. And AI also enables mass personalization of medicine and synthetic organ development through advanced biotech. But as an implication, it also creates new ethical and regulatory challenges, because let's not forget that implications is not necessarily a positive thing. It has some negative sides, it has some challenges, and possibly ethical questions that need to be answered. The second, again, when you cross quantum computing and AI models, obviously, we already said how quantum computing will supercharge AI, but it will also make current computing architectures and software architectures very quickly obsolete, and in particular, cybersecurity models. So, every sector where today we essentially apply computing will be disrupted by this intersection in between quantum and AI. Any sector will be impacted by that, and it will be very deep. It's not just the capacity AI has on one hand of calculating and solving a problem, is the speed at which this is made possible through quantum computing with much less energetic resources. Let's not forget. Then finally, AI and spatial computer with the next generation of AI agents, which will assume virtual resemblance, and they will enable the next generation of services related to collaboration, education, but even healthcare, with virtualized healthcare applications. So we will have these very intelligent avatars in artificial XR environments, and they will really reshape the way we interact with computing. From conversational computing, we will start having conversational computing based on voice and chat interactions like ChatGPT, which is more conversational than an interface with buttons and menus, to having a deeper relationship with computers where a computer or the artificial intelligence is finally represented by a character, by a virtual being that begins having a relationship with us. And they will become our trainer, our doctors, our assistants in different domains. Finally, to even better understand the impacts and the consequences of these technologies and their impacts and their influence, we use another tool which is called the future wheel. And this future wheel is really is used like when you throw a stone in the water and you get the ripple effects of the stone. This is the same way we think about innovations in the future, where, as you can see from the basic template we use to perform this exercise, we start by writing down a driver of change or a specific technology, and we extend the visualization and analysis of its impact by using this wheel, with ripple effect, where we highlight first level, second level, and third level of impact of effect. And I'm going to quickly go through the first, second, and third level order effects of the intersections that we analyzed before, starting from AI and biotech. Again, the first order effects, so the ones the first effects, the ones that are nearer to us, the ones that are most easy to understand, is how AI power genetic engineering and diagnostics. So AI will augment genetic engineering diagnostic. As we said, there is going to be rapid drug and vaccine discovery, personalized health monitoring treatment. But what will these first order effects bring afterwards? What could be the possibilities of second order possibilities that they will bring about? And these are the expansion of precision medicine, as well as increased healthcare inequality based on the access of data, possibly based on wealth, on the possibility of accessing these advanced technologies applied to genetic engineering and healthcare diagnostics, but also ethical controversies on DNA editing techniques. And this could bring about stricter governance frameworks, regulations from the government on the use of DNA editing and bioengineering in general. And one other effect, one possibility, for example, could be that these new capabilities could stimulate the rise of decentralized medical labs. Some of these diagnoses, for example, or even treatments could be done at home, could be done independently or by smaller infrastructures that are more localized instead of being necessarily done in a large hospital. So you could have a movement of biohackers on the rise as well. So the second order is really, what's not so evident, but what is coming right after the first order. Third order effect, there could be a shift in the pharmaceutical business models and the rise of subscription-based health services. This is already actually a signal today that it's starting already today. Then there could be collaborative teams in between artificial intelligence and human biologists. So, redefining really the way that scientific discovery is made and the scientific work is performed. But also there could be, as a third order effect, higher risk in bioterrorism, because bioengineering is more accessible by everyone, so there could be more threats in terms of biological attacks or biosecurity, and this could bring to biosecurity agreements and regulations in between governments internationally. So I'm sure you can start seeing how from the first things that are immediately visible as impact of the interception in between technology, you can get to three order of different impacts that are not so evident at the beginning but are connected to each other. Let's go to quantum computing and AI. We're almost at the end of our masterclass today. So quantum and AI, the first order effects, as we said, the drastic speed up in model training and the efficiency of AI. So it's much faster. If you've used AI before, even some of the basic models of generative AI to generate, for example, images or even videos, you have seen how long it takes for an AI engine to actually generate new content. This is going to be sped up tremendously. But also the discovery of new materials and energy systems and molecular engineering. And there is going to be, as a first effect, almost immediately a deep disruption of any type of security encryption and in general encryption systems. One of the first effects of quantum computing is going to make obsolete all levels of cybersecurity that we know today. And in fact, cybersecurity experts are already preparing for that and designing the new level of security. Second order effects. In this case, the quantum computing is, of course, going to push and speed reaching this famous level of AGI, of artificial general intelligence. It's going to make it happen much quicker. We're going to get there much quicker. Of course, as we said, the current cybersecurity regulations and protocols are going to force a complete redesign and redefining of the global cybersecurity regulations. And there is going to be also as a second effect this quantum race among races and corporations, as well as there is now for AI. And this is also due to there's going to be a lot of regulatory uncertainty on how to regulate this race, and what rules to define in this very quick race to reach the supremacy in these two technologies. Third order effects: social and political instability due to the imbalance generated by owning or not owning these types of technologies at what level. The creation of this new philosophical and ethical frontiers determined by these extremely powerful and life-changing technologies that will enter very deeply the domains of our lives and exist the concepts of existence as humankind and impact them, so generating new philosophical and ethical considerations. And then how is education going to change? This change is so powerful that they're not going to completely disrupt the way we work, but therefore they are completely disrupting the way we need to educate. What's going to be like working in the future? Will there even be work in the future, and what will we need to be educated for if work will not exist as we know it today? Finally, AI and spatial computing as first order effect, conversational AI in virtual environments, as we said, with avatars and virtual beings, the emergence of realistic virtual beings, whether they will be virtual but also humanoid robotics in the physical world, but also AI generated environments, AI generated world in which these agents will be, and in which we will be able to enter eventually to perform certain things. But also digital twins of existing physical spaces, industries, machinery connected with data, and also human beings. We will potentially have a digital twin, not just to be represented in presence in a virtual space, in a community online, but also to carry somehow our digital identity made up of our biodata, of our identification data, and everything we need to authenticate ourselves in digitally or in any form in the new realms and domains of quantum and artificial intelligence. As second order effects of these, the virtualization of workforce and the emergence of new regulations when it comes to managing productivity and hiring teams. There will be mixed teams, even more than there are today, of people that will be present virtually and not physically in the office. Of course, if even there will be a physical office, but maybe there will not. The rise of cognitive bias is also a possible consequence. Increasing misinformation and fake content, reality that is not verifiable anymore, and somehow will generate more anxiety and issues related to understanding what's the real shared reality. And of course, and this is already a problem today, the rise of emotional dependence on these non-human entities, the virtual friend, the virtual girlfriend. Some people already are using ChatGPT as a therapist to support them to overcome their loneliness, introspection. So there is an emergent phenomena where people find it easier to develop, whether you can call it relationship, but to develop a relationship with a machine rather than another human being. as third order effects in this case, from that concept of emotional dependence, we go easily to questioning our identity, to de facto redefinition of identity, with ourselves having a place also in the digital life that is so present, so powerful, that poses psychological and existential challenges, and eventually also maybe even legal problems or regulatory governance problems at government level or at community level. And then maybe the fact that we will develop different forms of digital presence or multiple levels of presence and ways of being. This will bring about new business models around the concept of time in different dimensions, about empathy in between people, virtual entities, digital entities, and new business model on the level of attention and immersion that people have in these different dimensions. And of course, maybe as a final provocation, you could even have a situation where we could talk about rights of virtual beings, of these virtual personas that, thanks to artificial intelligence, will become so similar to human beings that we'll start having us question ourselves on whether they will somehow are becoming real alter egos of ourselves as human beings, and whether they should be somehow, they should have they should be regulated or have some kind of rights definition as much as we have. If you're gonna get the slides of this presentation, we don't have enough time to go through the next 10 trends and disruptions, but I'm gonna leave you with the final statement. As I said, the future is becoming very uncertain, and as you can see from what we discussed today, it could have many implications. So the best way to predict the future today is really to design it, and the way to design it is choosing the future scenario that we want to be part of, and really try and aim at reaching it. I stop here for today. I'm going to stop screen sharing, go back to the conference. There we go. Here we go today.
Thank you so much, Mattia.
Thank you.
For this look into the future, and for reminding us all that maybe most of us need to, be a little bit more prepared than we are right now. I could feel some truth there for sure. If
Definitely.
Anybody out there has any questions for Mattia right now is the time to ask them before we move on with the rest of our day. And yes, as Matthias said, both the slides and this recording will be available to you on our platform. So you can see the rest of the presentation that we did not get through the slides there. Also share it with your colleagues. And if they do not have a login yet for our platform, then just write to me and I will fix it. Otherwise, if there are no questions, then we're going to say thank you so much to Mattia for your time and your effort for this masterclass. And for the rest of you out there, and for you, Mattia, have a really nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, Rega. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.